Hello, I'm the awesome Tutor, and today we are going back to Egypt looking at the problem of the Sudan. So, let's look at some context first. You have Governor Gordon, and the slave trade was still persisting in the Sudan. Now, Egypt had de facto administrative control over Sudan. This was established long before all the problems of Sudan started to arise. Okay, and so the Khedive Ismail Pasha, appointed Gordon as governor to go into the area, into Sudan, and suppress the slave trade. But what that did is it was very destabilizing to the economy and the societal control in the area. Okay, it left a power vacuum for the Mahdists to fill, which I will go on to explaining later on. And so, in an increasingly fractured society in Sudan, Gordon resigned 1880, and subsequent governors were not as effective as Gordon in maintaining control. So you had destabilization of control, power vacuum, fracturing society in the Sudan, and that facilitated the rise of other problems. So I told you about the power vacuum. This power vacuum was filled by the Mahdi, specifically this guy, Mohammed Ahmed, who was proclaimed the Mahdi of Sudan in 1881. And what he did is he capitalized on Sudanese resentment and nationalism, trying to oust the foreign powers from their territory. And one of the concerns that British politicians back in the metropole in London had was that this rise of radical Islam would start to merge with the Egyptian nationalism that was starting to take effect in Egypt. Remember the effects of Baring's reforms, the dissatisfaction within the fellahin classes and the ruling classes? So that was one of the problems, that the problems of Sudan would start filtering into Egypt as well, and the British did not want that. Another sign that this was a real threat was the Battle of Ubaid in 1883, where the Mahdists pretty much butchered the Anglo-Egyptian forces, where there were only 300 out of 8,000 survivors. And so this was a huge loss to the British and an identifier of the increasing threat of radical Islam in Sudan. So, with this rising radical Islam, Gladstone, Prime Minister Gladstone, had a lot of concerns and worries about this. Okay? He feared the destabilization of the program of financial consolidation and control that Baring had established in Egypt. He feared the problems of the Sudan starting to make their way into Egypt as well, the merging of radical Islam and Egyptian nationalism. The thing about the Sudan, though, is it served not really any strategic or economic interest. It was really the rise of radical Islam that made Gladstone more cautious. And so he did not want a long, drawn-out military campaign, so instead he dispatched Gordon to evacuate the Egyptian garrisons in Sudan in 1884. But Gordon was there for almost a year. There is many debate as to why he was there, why he didn't explicitly follow Gladstone's instructions, but that's not important for understanding the problems of the Sudan, so I'm going to move on. The siege of Khartoum, where the Mahdist forces broke through the fortifications in Khartoum, where Gordon and the Egyptian garrisons were, and so Gladstone dispatched a relief expedition, but it was too late. It arrived 2 days late because on the 26th of January, the entire garrison in Khartoum was wiped out. Gordon was presented in the media as a martyr, a British hero. And what you also had that was highly publicized was the brutality with which Gordon was killed. He was decapitated and his head was presented to the Mahdi as a prize. So you can imagine the public outrage and aftermath that would occur in London. But that's for another video, which would help explain why the British conquered Sudan in 1898. This has been the Awesome Tutor. Bye.